Shalom Akim, Kal Halayim La, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakodash, and double honors to the Great Millstone Apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Father Yahweh, Father Yahushai for the strength, to make this video. And Yaratazar, you find this video edifying and exhorting. To edify means to build up, and to exhort means to encourage. And when we say Kal Halalim La, that's ancient Hebrew for all praises to. Kal meaning all, Halalim meaning praises, which is the plural form of halal. Halal meaning praise in the singular form, and then la meaning to. So Kal Halalim La meaning all praises to. And when we say Yahweh, we're saying the name of the Most High, which means he is, or he exists, or he is to be. And when we say Bahashem, we're saying in the name. So Ba meaning in, Ha meaning the, Sham, Sham meaning name. Of course, in the scriptures, in the book of Genesis, it talks about Shem, but the thing is, it's not actually spelled as Shem in the ancient Hebrew, Shem, it's Sham, which is Sham, the real ancient Hebrew word for name, when you get into the blue letter and the root words. So when we say Yahushua, we're saying the name of our Messiah, the name of our Savior, Yahushua, not Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is it's a fake name, really. It's an idol, it's not really pertaining to our Savior, because you gotta say the real name in the ancient Hebrew, not some English name. We've already dealt with that one. Letter J wasn't even in the ancient Hebrew alphabet, back in those days. Nor it came around the 15th century. But anyways, I'm not trying to make this intro too long. So yeah, Yahushua meaning he delivers, or he saves. And when we say Bahashem Rakha Kodash, we're saying in the name, Spirit Holy. Rakha meaning Spirit, Kodash meaning Holy. So through the Holy Spirit. So anyways, I would say that because of course through the Holy Spirit, that's how we connect to Yahushua, and through Yahushua, that's how we get intervention and we get mercy from Yahweh. There's a system in place. And Thawada just means thank you. It's like you're giving thanks, when you say Thawada Yahweh, Thawada Yahushua. So, here and there, Yaratazar, you hear me mention that sometimes in the beginning of the video, I might just go straight to the point. So anyways, BBC News, what is the future of modern warfare? I was watching this just to see what's going on in terms of like the technological or the innovations that are being made, during the war, because there's all sorts of tensions, and not just tensions, but also, which the tensions are really like rumors of wars as well, but also actual wars going on, as we know, U.S. and Israel conflict, with Iran too, as well as the China and Taiwan. You got the Russia and Ukraine as well. India and Pakistan, I believe last year they had their little scuffle too. So nations are the heat is increasing. It's increasing. So I'm gonna play some of this, get some precepts, and that'll pretty much be the video. The point is the momentum when it comes to wars is still going. That's really the point of this video.
This is about harnessing cutting-edge technology on every front.
We're not keeping up with our allies. We're certainly not keeping up with our enemies.
Well, if we can't spend all that money and build ships quickly, then we're going to lean into uncrewed capabilities.
The conflict in Ukraine completely upended the way of war.
The threat is so severe, we need to spend much more. The question is where the money is going to come from.
We're going to focus on what warfare will look like over the coming decades, how much it will cost, and which countries pose and face the greatest threats. Well, across the world, countries are announcing plans to radically overhaul their military.
Yeah, as we're expecting anyways. In 20 years, we'll be in the kingdom. Of course, I say Yaratazar, but damn, man. After 2030 and 2035, living under Esau's kingdom is gonna feel like a glitch, man. Especially with all the technology and every infrastructure in place. They've got all their data centers. It wouldn't make sense for them to go another 20 years and not have the chip be released in Esau's kingdom. It just wouldn't make sense, man. Anyone who's got spiritual eyes and even not just spiritual eyes, but even physical eyes to see what's going on here. You know that you could put two and two together, man. Like, Esau's kingdom ain't gonna last another 20 years, but Yaratazar, which means by Yahweh's will, that will be in the kingdom by then.
Strategies and integrate technologies which are changing the face of the battlefield. Well, among them is the UK. Here's the Prime Minister Keir Starmer on harnessing the latest technology.
We'll build a new hybrid Royal Navy, uncrewed ships, above and below the surface, Typhoons flying with autonomous wingmen, making them invisible to enemy detection, a new fleet of surveillance drones collecting intelligence and finding targets, and a surge in low-cost one-way attack drones. This is about harnessing cutting-edge technology on every front.
The Security Brief's Mikey Kay is with us. Mikey, what do you think warfare is going to look like, say, in 20 years' time?
Well, Matthew, in order to get an idea of what the future is going to look like, let's rewind a little bit. Post-World War II, we saw conventional warfare basically lasting for around 5 decades. And we're talking about state-on-state actors. We're talking about tanks, warships, and fighter jets. And then as we come post-2001, Iraq and Afghanistan, asymmetry became the buzzword, asymmetric warfare. So state actor versus non-state, non-state using unconventional methods like improvised explosive devices. And then, if you just heard the Prime Minister then talking about that buzzword hybrid warfare, in 2014, we saw Putin basically do a land grab on Crimea. And what hybrid warfare is basically using existing conventional military apparatus with non-military capabilities, such as proxies, disinformation being a huge one, and also cyber. So if you look at the way that drone technology is advancing in Ukraine at the moment, it's outdated basically every 2 weeks. So you're getting kind of this hockey stick of evolution of capability. So for me, 20 years' time, it's going to be autonomous, it's going to be uncrewed, and I think that will be dominating military expenditure.
So what are the new bits of military hardware that have actually caught your eye?
So I think for me, it's the speed of innovation that's caught my eye. So I'm not talking about fifth generation fighters like the F-22. I'm not talking about aircraft carriers. I'm not talking about Type 45s. What I'm talking about is the low-cost, mass-produced, but state-of-the-art drone systems, such as the Hornet interceptor that Ukrainians are using at the moment. They're about $1,000 per unit. They're mass-produced. They're incredibly accurate, incredibly efficient, and the speed of innovation of that is phenomenal in terms of addressing the evolution of threat that's coming from Russia.
And taking a look around the world, where do you see the greatest threats coming from?
I think it's got to be the eastern flank of Europe at the moment. What we're seeing with Putin, he's putting 6,500 one-way attack drones into Europe at the moment, which is significant. And when you look at the proximity of Finland, Sweden, Norway, the Baltic states, and then combine that with Europe's current inability to be able to absorb that 6,500 one-way attack drone threat, I think that for me is the biggest threat. And those numbers from Putin in terms of the 6,500 per month, they're just going up.
Well, let's just pick up on what Mikey has been saying, because European countries are under intense pressure to spend more on defence. Several factors are at play. One is the Russia full-scale invasion of Ukraine back in 2022. Another is the dwindling promise of protection from the United States. So how does the UK compare on defence spending? On that, here's Ben Chu from BBC Verify.
Here's NATO qualifying defence spending in a range of different countries as a share of their overall economies, showing how it's changed between 2014 and 2024. As you can see, the UK has been relatively flat over that time, though slightly rising from 2.1% of GDP to 2.3%. US defence spending actually declined from 3.7% to 3.2%, while Poland has significantly increased its spending as a proportion of GDP since the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, actually overtaking the US. There's also been a sharp increase in German defence spending over that time relative to the size of its economy, although they started out spending much less than the US, the UK and France.
Well, the UK's spending on defence as a percentage of GDP is set to rise, but...
So really, there's the nations are warming up. Ultimately, it's just going to be Edom versus Edom. It's like, as the saying goes, You know, how can Satan cast out Satan? Hold on, let me get that one and then I'll come back to the video. Alright, this is Matthew 12 and verse 25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And Esau's kingdom is self-imploding right now. You know, obviously in, how can I say this? Yes, in the details when it comes to, you know, obviously the everyday individual. And also not just that, you know, they call it GDP per capita, you know, referring to economics there. But also not just that, but in the macro level, you know, as a whole, in terms of the economies globally as well, you know, Esau's kingdom is imploding. You know, that chaos is slowly, well, I say slowly, but yeah, it's taken over. So it says, against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. You see? Because again, it's just Edomites versus Edomites. Edomites who speak Russian versus Edomites who speak English. And then obviously you got the other European nations that are going to go against Babylon. I mean, really, as prophecy speaks anyways, they're all going to go against America, Babylon the Great, man. And that's why Jeremiah 51 verse 25 talks about the mountain being a burnt mountain, which means that rulership, America, Rome reincarnated again, is going to be demolished. So again, so verse 26 says, and if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? So that's the point right there. That's the point right there. I'm going to get this one as well. Yeah, this is Matthew 24 and 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, as we're hearing right now. I mentioned a few in the beginning of the video. Cause tensions between China and Taiwan, as well as America, because America don't want China to have a hold on Taiwan, especially when it comes to the semiconductor chip production. There are some other reasons too, but that's the main thing there. You know, Russia and Ukraine, as I said, India and Pakistan, but all of this is just like, again, just warming up, you know, adding more fuel to the fire, and eventually it's all going to lead to them saying, wait, hold on. We got to direct our missiles to Babylon. That's when they're going to start reasoning. Then after that, Babylon the Great. But yeah, it's because, you know, everyone wants to go to the land of the gold, innit? Which is America. But nevertheless, that land of gold, or that land of so-called opportunity, which is just getting worse right now, you know, will be desolate. It will be destroyed. You know, it will be like a scar on the face of the earth. That's how it's going to be. Alright, so Matthew 24 and 6, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. So we don't have to worry about these things. Yeah, you know, all this stuff is going on. But remember, our power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua, orchestrates everything. You know, when you know that, you know, your father, which, you know, really Yahweh is our spiritual father, and our big brother, Yahushua, is in control of everything. He's in control. Remember, Yahweh is the father of spirits. He's the father of spirits. In fact, I'm going to just get there right now, because I know I saved a few precepts, but hold on. Should be in Hebrews 12 maybe. Let me type that up properly. Yeah, Hebrews 12 and 9. It says, furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence, deep respect. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits and live? So yeah, that's the point. Father of spirits, that's Yahweh. So of course we don't need to worry about, you know, these wars that are happening here, man. So it says here see that ye be not troubled, for all things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So it's like, still got to wait, even though these wars are happening, still got to wait. That MOTB still got to happen. Then when that MOTB happens, you're going to see true speed when it comes to downfall. It's going to be so fast, Esau going to be confused himself. that right there will be some comedy. So verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. You know, we heard about the one in Japan. We heard about the one in California recently. We heard about the one in Venezuela. You know, so not just that as well. You had El Nino as well, the effects of that in terms of a great storm. You know, that happened over here in the UK last Tuesday, early morning. I remember it was 4:30 in the morning. So yeah, these things are pretty much signals that Yahweh Shem Yahshai is visiting the earth. That's really it. Okay, let me play a bit more. I'm gonna get some presets and I'll wrap it up.
Well, the UK's spending on defence as a percentage of GDP is set to rise.
Though they started out spending much less than the US, the UK, and France.
Well, the UK's spending on defence as a percentage of GDP is set to rise, but some analysts think the increase won't be enough to keep the country safe. General Sir Richard Barrons is a former commander of Joint Forces Command. He thinks the plans need to go further.
If you look at most of our European allies in NATO, they have smelt the fear. They're spending more money much faster on revitalising and beginning to transform their armed forces, and they're looking at the UK, who were once an exemplar of a European nation in NATO, and we're now about halfway down the spending table in NATO. We're not keeping up with our allies. We're certainly not keeping up with our enemies, and we know that the US is no longer going to come and save European security in the face of a Russian threat.
So back to Mikey Kay. And Mikey, how much money would be enough to...
That the US is no longer rising and beginning to transform their armed forces, and they're looking at the UK, who were once an exemplar of a European nation in NATO, and we're now about halfway down the spending table in NATO. We're not keeping up with our allies. We're certainly not keeping up with our enemies, and we know.
Yeah, UK, of course, the mother of Babylon. The mother of Babylon is aging now, man. She's getting weak. Those who have spiritual eyes, you'll be able to understand that, because of course, considering history as well, you know, with how the British came over to the Americas and put their settlements, you know, that's why it's called Mother Babylon as well. You know, so yeah, man. The point is, Mother Babylon, aka the UK, Great Britain. Imagine Great Britain giving birth to Babylon the Great, which is again a nickname for Babylon the Great being a nickname for America. Anyways, so yeah, Mother Babylon's getting tired. You know, not able to keep up with the allies. So yeah, it's humorous. Let's continue.
Know that the US is no longer going to come and save.
Actually, hold on. Let me get a preset quickly and then we'll get back. All right, this is Jeremiah 50 and verse 9. It says, "For lo, I will raise." In fact, before I say this, yeah, it says prophecy against Babylon, but this is talking about Babylon in the future, the America. So Jeremiah 50 and verse 9. Hold on. "For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country," which is reference to the Russians, "and they shall set themselves in array against her, and from thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of the mighty expert man, none shall return in vain," which means when they sent those arrows, being indicative of those nuclear missiles, they're going to be sent and they're not going to miss their targets, as we know in Joel 2. Alright, so verse 10 says, "And Chaldea shall be a spoil, all that spoil her shall be satisfied, save the Lord Yahweh." And of course, Chaldea also reference to the Babylonians too. So again, aka the Americans. Jeremiah 50 and 11, "Because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage," you know, Israel. It says, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, "because ye are grown fat as a heifer," which is a type of animal, "at grass, and bellow as bulls. Your mother," because I mentioned about the mother of Babylon getting tired, "your mother shall be sore," which is the UK. United Kingdom, Great Britain. Your mother shall be sore confounded, she that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. I'm reading the NLT. But your homeland will be overwhelmed with shame and disgrace. You will become the least of the nations, a wilderness, a dry and desolate land, quite literally. That's why all sorts of beasts are gonna take over after Babylon the Great has gone through his fire phase. You're just gonna be seeing owls and vultures, animals of that sort, just feeding on the remnants of the whatever is left there. Because that's it, man. Crows, ravens. You're gonna see them feeding on that flesh, man, that burnt flesh. And yeah, it's gonna be a feast for them type of animals, man. So yeah, let's get back to the video. Then, in fact, no, hold on. Let me bring out these presets and then I'll wrap it up with the video and that's that. So Genesis 27 and verse 40, and by thy sword shalt thou live. So Isaac, of course, giving his blessing to Esau. It says, and by thy sword shalt thou live and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. So yeah, but the point is that he's got the blessing of the sword. And nevertheless, of Esau having authority over Jake right now, has the dominion, breaking off the yoke. Because of course, there was a time that Jake did have Esau under them. But again, the Most allowed Esau to get his dominion, get his power back. And hence he's in this position right now. So from there, of course, you got the blessing of the sword, again, the guns, the weaponry, the weapons of mass destruction, all sorts of weapons of which Esau uses in order to really just acquire resources. Again, steal, kill, and destroy. That's his nature. But yeah, that's the point. It says, and by thy sword shalt thou live and shalt serve thy brother. So that's the blessing that he gonna have, man. Let me get this one too. So on 64 and verse 6, it says, they search out iniquities, they accomplish their diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. Their thoughts are deep. It's like, okay, what tactic can we use that's very discreet, no one's going to realize, in order to hinder these Israelites, or even just in a war sense, like what can we do where the enemy won't even notice us attacking them or taking their resources. So yeah, that requires a diligent search, a diligent mind, something with careful and persistent effort, which is what diligent means. Even in the NLT, let me read this. It says, as they plot their crimes, they say we have devised the perfect plan. You see, yes, the human heart and the mind are cunning, and that's how Esau goes, man. That's why the scriptures, Yahusha, as the scriptures say, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And serpents are very wise when it comes to their ability to attack their prey. They're patient. They strike at the right moment. Right, let's get back to the video and I'm going to close it out.
That the US is no longer going to come and save European security in the face of a Russian threat.
So back to Mikey K. And Mikey, how much money would be enough to counter those contemporary threats?
Matthew, I don't think it's ever going to be enough in terms of what the threat and what the MOD likes. We know that from the 28 billion funding gap that was outlined by the MOD when they were writing the DIP. Now, anyone that has listened to any of the questions going towards the Defence Secretary in the House of Commons today. It's all about how much, what is the percentage of GDP. I don't think, Matthew, you can have that conversation without addressing what I'm calling procurement reform. Procurement has legacy long timelines, it's supremely expensive, and as soon as you order a certain capability, it's really hard to adjust it and keep up with advanced technology. So I think, for me, you know, as I said earlier on, Ukraine technology, drone technology, has been outdated every 2 weeks. So the big question, apart from the spending, is that how do you refine, how do you make a procurement system more agile and versatile to be able to deal with that changing threat?
Well, let's stay with Ukraine because the war there has transformed what is understood about the modern battlefield, and the conflict has become a real-time testing ground for new technologies. Cheap autonomous drone systems are now a central part of the military toolkit. Well, despite having limited resources, Ukraine has been able to destroy Moscow's Black Sea Fleet, strike deep into Russian territory, and stall.
But the point is that the war is still going to keep on with its momentum, man. But we don't need to be troubled, as it says in Matthew 24, between verses 6 and verse 7. You know, be ye not troubled. So anyways, I'll leave it at that. I find this edifying and exhorting. Shalom, Kahalaim La, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ruach Kodash. Double honors to the great and apostles. Shalom.